his left-hand side. But once they figured that out, they were able to use that to their advantage,
there he is.
and they could sneak up on his blind side. So they tried lassoing him with ropes without any joy. So then they inserted a little barb underneath his front forelimb, pulled him into the side of the boat, thrust him up, and towed him into the beach, and then towed him up on the sand with a four-wheel drive. And social media was hard at work, and after council heard about this big croc down on the strand, and came down to look, and just as well because it took the wildlife officers that caught him, a couple of police officers, and a big part of the crowd to pick up the crate and put it on the back of the trailer off to a holding facility that the department has here in council. Now, when a crocodile is 4 metres or longer, they are referred to as iconic crocodiles. And the wildlife legislation dictates that the traditional owners of the land get to determine where the crocodile is going to be housed. Now, we have two language groups here in our area. Over on Magnetic Island, we have the Walgarugabar people, the canoe people, and a little bit closer to home, this is freehold land, but it's traditional Bingal land. So the elders got together and they wanted to keep the crocodile in country, and because of our reputation with what we do here with conservation and education, they wanted Jupiter to come here to the Billabong. But when he arrived here, he was in extremely poor condition, emaciated. That's Ray's favourite word, emaciated.
Whoa, he big. He got big
Skin
back.
and bone. And the reason for that, we think he was driven out of his territory. Anybody wants a really good photo, come around here. Got a screensaver here.
I got the 5 times. I got the 5 times.
Yeah, so skin and bone. We think what had happened, he was driven out of his territory by either another big male or a young male making his way up the ladder, forced out into the ocean, and headed down the coast. Screensaver.
Don't let them drag you in. It will hurt.
Yeah, headed down the coast, sticking his head up rivers and creeks, trying to establish a territory without any luck, being driven out.
Couldn't show my mother.
Down. So by the time he ended up on our beach, the strand, he was literally starving.
Damn, he's got a big ass body.
So before Krakatoa, our largest crocodile here at the Billabong was Bully. And no, that'll be enough. Bully, when he arrived here, he was caught up at the Mona Landing, just outside Halifax, up past Ingham, and he was feeding people's dogs up there. So he was a crocodile of concern. So he was in excellent condition. He had big jowls, big fat reserves around his neck and around the base of his tail. And he didn't eat for, what was it, 6 months, Ray?
Ah, there he is.
He didn't eat for 6 months. Now, we weren't at all concerned about him because a crocodile with that condition, he could go easily for a year without eating.
Wait, what?
Whereas this fellow here started feeding within a couple of weeks because he was starving. So apart from the missing eye, he had battle scars down the side of his body from battling with other crocodiles. And
Poor fella.
2/3 of his teeth were missing. Now, we thought that he was, because all those teeth were missing, crocodiles can replace every tooth in their mouth 50 times. We thought he was probably 80 years old or even older. But since he's been here and he's been fed all of this nutritious food and no other crocodiles to stress him, all of his teeth have gone back. So we now think he's probably around about, what would you say, Ray? You asleep?
Turn up the nose.
Mostly flies and mosquitoes.
We believe he's probably about 65 years or so of
Whoa.
age. Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, though, it's very hard to tell, but that's our estimated guess. Educated.
Yeah, it's only a guess.
Question. How long is he?
How long is he?
Yeah.
He's, what is he, 4.1, isn't he? Sorry? 4.3 metres.
Holy shit, he's a 4 meter.
Yeah, 4.3 metres. So if you think of Krakatoa at 5.1, and if you have a look at the head of Krakatoa and the head of Jupiter here, and we didn't see the length of Krakatoa. You know, it comes out of the water. You know, it's absolutely huge. So at this stage of the presentation, somebody wants to know why he was called Jupiter.
What was he called, Jupiter, Bob?
Oh, yeah, slow audience today. I think it's the heat.
Definitely.
Yeah, why was he called Jupiter? Well, where he was caught, the casino was in the background. That was the nickname given to him by the wildlife officers that caught him. So it's now known as the Bill. Chris Morris has put a big chunk of his fortune into turning it into a great asset for council. But the traditional owners were happy to keep that name because it was an Aboriginal boy, Jupiter Mossman, who first discovered gold out at Carter's Tower.
Oh, wow. Didn't know
Anybody
that.
have any questions about Jupiter or crocodiles in general?
What's his favorite food?
Sorry?
What's his favorite animal before you caught him?
What does he like to eat?
Yes.
Right, well, what we've been feeding our crocodiles this morning, either chicken frames that we buy by the carton or poultry. The Billabong is known throughout council as the place to bring your chooks, your roosters or your ducks when the chooks are finished laying or when the roosters are waking up all the neighbours. And we euthanize them. We don't chop their heads off. We just give them a whiff of CO2 and put them to sleep. We give them fish frames. We've even given them some mud crabs.
Oh, my god, that's good food.
And occasionally people trap wild pigs and bring them in. So they get a real variety.
Ah.
Right, so we come to the most important part of our presentation this afternoon, and that is clockwise, how to stay safe with these reptiles up here in North Queensland. So just down the road a bit, we have Alligator Creek. Everybody used to call these gators at one stage.
Yeah.
And we went through a stage of calling them saltwater crocodiles. Now we call them estuarine crocodiles. Now, where the Alligator Creek goes under the Bruce Highway, Highway 1 on the mountain side, up in Cape Bowling Green National Park. It's a high altitude up there. It's cold water, running water, clear water, over rocks, over boulders, over waterfalls, and you won't find crocodiles up there. On the ocean side of the Bruce Highway there, where Alligator Creek flows out into the ocean, there's some big 4-metre crocodiles down there.
Man.
Their average lifespan, the one we've got next door, Riley, he has spent all of his life in captivity, and he's 50 years old.
Whoa.
And he's still going really strong. Probably 80 years, but we think they probably could live to 100.
Wait, what?
To 100 years. So he's going to be around longer than I am.
Holy sugar.
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions?
When they lay eggs, how many do they usually have?
Well, we've got 2 breeding pairs here. Next door we've got Riley and Bonta, and then we've got Snappy Tom and Billabong Bell. We've been observing courtship rituals so far, but they won't build their nest until we get some storms. You need thunder and lightning, some heavy rain. That's the stimulus for the females to lay.
Okay.
So on average here at the Billabong, what, 40 to 50 eggs?
Holy,
Yeah.
that's
And
a lot of
what we do
babies.
is we take them out of the nest the day that they're laid, and we put them in our incubator. And as long as they're fertile, we'll get almost 100% success rate.
It's a
If
lot
we
of
leave
babies.
them in the nest, well, we're not allowed to. It's against the law because they can get through the fence and into our neighbours' yards. And,
Yeah, that'd be a bad idea.
we get along really well with our neighbours. So.
We don't want them complaining about alligators. We don't want them complaining about crocodiles.
No, that's right.
Innocent creatures than they want to be.
All right, so yeah, so if you're out there in the great outdoors, doing a bit of camping, pitch your tent well back away from the edge of the bank. What do we recommend? 100 metres?
100 metres.
Yeah, because crocodiles have been known in 2 cases
Excuse me.
anyway of
Sorry.
entering a tent at night. One particular case, the crocodile grabbed hold of the fellow and his mother-in-law came to his rescue and started beating the crocodile around the head, creating a commotion, and somebody came and shot the crocodile, but that was enough for the fellow to survive. Yep.
When I went camping last, we saw around a 6-meter crocodile, which had a different type of tail to this one.
6 metres.
Yeah, a 6-meter croc.
Yeah. I think they look a lot bigger than they actually are.
Yeah.
So in our area around Townsville, you don't get any crocodiles bigger than 4 metres. So you've got to go up into the top end of Australia, as Ray said earlier on, where we get a winter here in Townsville, and even though our winter days are 25 degrees, it's not warm enough for a crocodile to digest a large meal. Whereas up in the top end, it's hot all year round and they can eat all year round. All right, so we're in for a bit of a treat today, aren't we? We've got some fresh water crocodile feeding. And how many people have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I think everybody's in for a treat. Because it's free. You get to see the freshwater crocodile. All right, so it's just we've got one crocodile enclosure here, and then that's the next one down. So Ray will meet you down there for the freshies.
Straight after that, I'll get out a little holding crocodile. You can have a hold if you haven't, or you want to do it again.